I am of the belief that Dan O'Clown is breathing his final gasps, his dying breaths, his business is in trouble, and he knows it, and he's fighting back like a caged animal, like a sad, anemic lion, cornered, pushed into the corner. It's so sad, and we will discuss that with Randy Kirk. But I am Brian. Welcome to my Tesla weekend. I did want to thank newest YouTube members, Joel, Sean, Andrew, Dash, and Randy Lathrop. Welcome, one and all. Thank you so much for your support. It's why I'm able to do the channel and keep going, because unlike Dan O'Clown, I don't have thriftware to bodge together and trick automakers into selling. Randy, how are you?
I'm doing so well. So well.
You know, normally I express an ounce of deference to these so-called experts, even when I don't think they're experts. I've invited them on the channel many, many times for an interview, but it's entirely possible he's smart enough to know the ways in which I've managed to paint people into corners before, and he is scared. I think
I would imagine he could be a little bit. In fact, I haven't noticed that he's really that excited about mixing it up.
Well, he has gone on one of Alexandra's Twitter spaces back when it was still Twitter, and he was so hostile and so aggressive, and it finally got to the point where she had to be the school teacher and say, look, every time you swear, I'm just going to cut you off and I'm going to start talking because you're being unreasonable. Now, the first thing I'd like to point out is on FSD, there's a reason the car accelerates unintended when he's doing his tests. And I know you're thinking, oh, it's the big floppy clown shoes, right? Yes, that's a big part of it. They wear those, I am told. And I think he is a graduate of, I want to say Barnum, or was it Ringling? Anyway, he's certainly qualified in that regard only. But he is... when they do their tests, you can see the warnings on the screen. They're stomping on the pedal. And driver input will override the FSD. We know that.
Time. Yes.
Every single time. Because that is a critical... Could you imagine if your car would not override it? What on earth? Oh my... You'd have to get... Any car with forward collision avoidance systems can be overridden. Right. That's the way they work.
Override it with... One of the interesting parts when you're first using FSD is overriding with the wheel, because that's how you're going to override it the most often. Is going to be, well, maybe as it gets better and better, it is more about accelerating because you're just frustrated with how slow the car is going. It's going granny speed, and I should know because I'm grampy. I'm very frustrated if it goes too slow. And but with the wheel, you kind of have to jerk it, or you feel like you're really having to put pressure on it to make it change. Maybe you're not, but that's how you feel. It's like, oh, I've got to overcome this, but you definitely you like the idea that you can. It gives you a lot more confidence knowing that you can do that.
Sure. He had said on X that he is so good at coding that he can find 10 bugs an hour. Now, I don't know how much you know about software, but if you're finding 10 bugs an hour, that's a pile of bugs. That's an oops, all bugs bit of code. And he said, no, my code is perfect when I am done. It is unhackable. Now, do you know anything about the word unhackable?
Usually, so I spent my first about 15 years of my professional life in the security business. So it has a similar kind of feel to it. We always had the unbreakable padlock, the padlock that nobody could possibly get into until they did. Mm-hmm. With that,
yes.
Is there a correlation here?
There is unhacked, meaning no one's hacked it yet, and then there is less hackable.
Less hackable. Yes.
There's more hack resistant.
Yes.
But our cars can't be hacked. Well, first of all, he won't say what software is his. Now, his website says we work with every major car maker and lists a whole lot of them with one conspicuously absent. And I think that's the root of it, is he's bitter that his software is not in the cars of the future.
Yeah.
The best-selling car in the world does not have his software and will not, because why would it? It's second-rate. He sells compilers and debuggers and an OS. A compiler, so everybody makes their own Tesla has their own compiler. I assume they have their own debugger. They certainly have their own OS. It's a fork of Linux. It's a pretty good OS. And I guarantee, and we know that the OSs on other cars are absolutely hackable. They have been hacked. He won't tell us which ones are his because that would be embarrassing. But instead, what he does is makes balloon animals. I think, again, I'm not sure where the clown part cuts off and the real part kicks back in. But Dan O'Clown is absolutely, first of all, he's very bitter and angry, and he is a compulsive liar, an absolutely compulsive liar. And I'm saying that to you, Dan, even though you're not watching this. Maybe you are. But there are a lot of reasons why you can't. If someone says their product is unhackable, I assume you would trust them as much as if they tell you their product is unbreakable.
Yes, are like in the security business, impossible to break into. So, the thing that I've always thought about Dan, as I've watched him, and I have commented from time to time, I think I've even responded to some of his posts on X, is the illogic. So it's one thing to be untruthful or to be unwilling to be nuanced on something. It's an entirely other thing where your logic just completely breaks down. And most of the times that I've written to him, it's been about logical inconsistencies where you have anybody in your life who, no matter what you say, they go, oh, no.
Yes. My
That's how I feel
sister-in-law
about
does
Dan.
that.
It's like he has to be. Every single aspect of Tesla FSD has to be wrong. There's nothing correct. You would think once in a while you would go, I noticed this thing really does this really well. And that would give him more credibility.
That's the difference between the vast majority of Tesla bulls and every single Tesla bear. Is Tesla bulls like us tend to be able to recognize shortcomings and address them. If I have that blind spot, I am not capable of giving you good advice. Where the bears will not mention a single thing they've done wrong. There's a gentleman on X who loves to support Lucid, and he says, Brian, you can't be fair to Lucid because you've got Tesla in the name. I said, here's a video called 5 Reasons Tesla Sucks. And I said, now, may I see your video about how Lucid sucks? May I see one post you've made critical of Lucid? And there isn't one because he's a cheerleader.
Has he said anything since he found out how much the president's making?
He has not. He will not discuss that. But the people I've seen who will, and maybe he has now, that, and I don't recall, but the people, their defense is, well, it was performance based and the stock went up, so he got paid. Right, but when Elon said it should be performance based, he didn't mean just the stock. If you look at Elon's compensation, stock was one aspect, and there were 5 other aspects. There was deliveries, there was gross margin, there was so many other, there was unit volumes, there was getting things into production. The stock price alone, all that tells you is you've built a magnificent Ponzi scheme.
Yes, exactly.
And that's not enough to get you where you need to go. Dan, to your point, Dan criticized the fact that they didn't have LiDAR. They only vision only. That's the wrong approach. Other autonomy companies have since dropped LiDAR. He hasn't criticized them.
No.
Well, it's got too many disengagements, right? And Cruise has too few. If your Cruise gets stuck at an intersection for 2 minutes, it doesn't count as a disengagement because it didn't disengage, right, even though it should have. Where if your Tesla gets stuck at an intersection for 10 seconds, you're going to tap the gas, give it a nudge, and away we go. And I don't even think 10, probably 5 seconds. When Elon gave the nudge during his FSD preview of version 12, he waited a very short time before he's like, well, I got to nudge it. We got to go.
Yep.
If he just sat there for 2 minutes, I'm confident the car would have said, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
But I've only done that once. I was driving a Model Y that had full self-driving. I got to an intersection. I said, you know what? I'm just going to wait and see what it does. It was a free right, but it was a little bit blind. No one's behind me. I'm going to just see what it does. And it just waited for the light, and away we went. It could have taken the free right. I would have taken the free right. It didn't, and we arrived at our destination without murdering any mannequin children. Not even one. I'm also curious. I don't trust anyone that owns that many mannequins, but that's a separate issue.
I don't even have a response to that one.
I had to drive all over Los Angeles to find them. Yeah, but you knew where to find them.
But he knew.
I'm just pointing out the obvious.
Yes.
I believe Tesla will, and I'm going to say I don't have this on good authority.
I didn't.
I believe Tesla is going to make their own open source compiler and release it. And if they do that, at least a third of Dan's business is gone.
Wow.
Ford has already said, we are open to licensing any part of Tesla's software. If they decide that they're going to use their software, which is the best for battery management, for infotainment, it is industry leading. Mm-hmm. If these companies switch to the Tesla OS, Dan's done. He's done. And yeah, he can't praise the things others are doing well, and he doesn't criticize the things others are doing badly. When Cruise is running over pets and children, he doesn't say a word. When it's blocking emergency vehicles that are responding to a fatality, he doesn't say a word. That's very dishonest. What do you think of that?
Oh no, I still have him in my thread. I mean, I haven't blocked him or done anything else. I barely read it now. There's a bunch of guys like that. I have about 4 or 5 Teslacs, that are still in my thread. I just have a hard time even looking at their headlines anymore. I just kind of go right past. I mean, sometimes it'll catch my attention, but he's one of them that I just, you look at the headline. I try to be as independent in my thinking as I possibly can be. I am a fanboy. I take the pledge. Okay, I really like what Elon's doing. I'm going to give Elon the benefit of the doubt, but I also am perfectly willing. I have said it on my channel. My wife and I do not use our FSD very often. She only goes 6 miles to work. It's almost not worth turning it on to go 6 miles. I mean, some people like to drive. They still like the feel of driving and being part of the action. I only drive that car on Sundays to go to church. That's the only time I drive her car. Well, that's a longer drive, but getting used to the FSD, every week for one drive is, again. So I've said this on my channel many times. So yeah, it's got limitations. There are people who it doesn't really, until it's perfect. When it's perfect, I'm sure we'll use it every single time. But until it's perfect,
yes. And when you're talking about a 6 mile drive or a once a week drive, driving can be fun. It is a thing you can do.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about 30 miles of commuting
every day,
I would use that every day. But just to pop up to the store, I certainly don't need it. I would use it just out of novelty, but I don't need it. And I don't go to church on Sundays because the last time I was there, the priest took this, I think it was acid because it burned so bad. I don't know what happened. But yeah, so I don't know, something weird. Everybody else seemed fine with it. But yeah, I guess I'm saying, Dan, I would love to have an honest, frank, open discussion with you. I won't try to anoint you with holy water. Of course not. But I will keep that door open. He won't come on.
Probably not.
He's afraid.
Yes,
He's
I
terrified.
would think so.
I would think so because I'm very, very good at some things,
You can't say all of those things on air.
Which things? Oh no, well, no.
You've told
Yeah.
me, but I'll never.
No.
You know, you have to. Yeah.
No, I keep that. So I've got some content that I only put on Patreon and some that I only put on like for my YouTube members. And then of course I got OnlyFans because as you know, my American viewers have a foot fetish.
They do.
And luckily, my European viewers have a centimeter fetish. So I want to thank Randy for coming on the show. It was a great time, as sometimes. And he's doing some great stuff over there on the Randy Kirk channel. I will put a link in the description, as I do. And he's got some fun new toys. Why don't you go and plug it real quick?
Oh, yeah?
Just because.
Oh,
Even though you're not a sponsor.
and even though I'm not a sponsor, you're going to let me.
I've shown this on my channel before.
Have you?
It's the Cybertruck bottle opener.
Yeah.
And he's got the best deal in town on them, $25.
Yeah.
And show the profile because they're 3mm, which is the thickness of the truck, the actual thickness of the skin, and it's very cool.
Yeah, they're very good.
So,
And
in the
they're
comments, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? Why is Dan right? And why is he wrong? What factors should we have included if I interview him, which I'm sure I will? What should I ask him? So everybody else, like, subscribe, do the usual things. Stay tuned, stay juicy, and I can't wait to hear from you clever robots on the next one.